Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the English Learning Podcast. I'm Jason, and today we have an exciting topic that can change the way you learn English forever.
That's right, Jason. So many English learners spend years studying grammar, memorizing vocabulary, and doing exercises, but when it's time to speak, they freeze.
Exactly. And that's why today's episode is called Stop Studying, Start Speaking. If you've been stuck in the cycle of learning but not using English, this episode is for you.
We'll be sharing practical tips, real-life examples, and easy strategies to help you stop overthinking and start speaking English with confidence.
So, if you're ready to break free from the old way of learning and finally start speaking fluently, stay with us until the end.
Let's get started.
All right, Julia, let's get straight to it. Many English learners spend years studying grammar books, memorizing vocabulary lists, and watching lessons. But when they need to speak, they struggle. Why does this happen?
That's a great question, Jason. The truth is, studying alone is not enough. Reading and writing are helpful, but speaking is a completely different skill. It's like learning to swim by reading a book. You won't really learn until you jump into the water.
Exactly. And I think many learners fall into this trap because they believe that if they just study more, one day they will suddenly be able to speak fluently. But that's not how it works.
Yes, fluency doesn't come from just learning. It comes from using the language in real conversations. You can memorize thousands of words, but if you never practice speaking, you won't be able to use them naturally.
That's so true. Let me give an example. Imagine two people want to learn how to play the guitar. One person studies music theory, watches videos, and reads books about playing guitar. The other person picks up the guitar and starts playing every day, even if they make mistakes. Who do you think will be better at playing the guitar?
Obviously, the person who actually plays the guitar. And it's the same with English. The more you speak, the faster you improve. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to start.
Yes. So if you're someone who has been studying English for years but still struggles to speak, don't worry. It just means you need to shift your focus. Instead of only studying, start practicing speaking every single day.
And don't be afraid of making mistakes. Mistakes are part of the learning process. In fact, the more mistakes you make, the more you learn.
That's a great point, Julia. Now that we understand why studying alone isn't enough, let's talk about something very important: the fear of speaking and how to overcome it. Now, Julia, let's talk about something that stops so many English learners from speaking: fear. Have you ever heard learners say things like, "I'm afraid I'll make mistakes," or "What if people laugh at me?"
Oh, all the time, Jason. Many learners feel nervous, shy, or even embarrassed when they try to speak English. They worry about their grammar, pronunciation, or that people won't understand them.
And you know what? That fear is completely normal. Learning a new language is like stepping out of your comfort zone. But here's the secret: everyone makes mistakes when learning. Even native speakers make mistakes sometimes.
That's so true. The problem is many learners think they need to be perfect before they can speak. But perfection is not the goal. Communication is. Even if you make mistakes, as long as people understand you, that's what really matters.
Exactly. And here's a little exercise for our listeners. Think about a time when you met someone who spoke your native language but wasn't perfect. Did you laugh at them, or did you appreciate their effort?
Most people appreciate the effort. No one expects you to be perfect. So the first step to overcoming fear is to accept that mistakes are normal. Instead of thinking, "What if I make a mistake?" Think, "Every mistake helps me improve."
Great mindset shift. And another way to overcome fear is to start small. You don't have to give a big speech in English right away. Just start with simple sentences. Talk to yourself in English, practice with a friend, or even speak in front of a mirror.
Yes, and one of my favorite methods is called shadowing. You listen to a native speaker and try to repeat what they say, word for word. It helps you get used to speaking without overthinking.
That's a fantastic tip, Julia. So, to all our listeners, don't let fear stop you. The more you practice speaking, the more confident you'll become.
Absolutely. Now that we've talked about fear, let's move on to something very important: how to start speaking from day one.
All right, Julia. Now that we've talked about overcoming fear, let's move to an important question. How can learners start speaking English from day one?
Great question, Jason. Many people think they need to wait until they know enough before they start speaking. But the truth is, you should start speaking from day one, no matter how little you know.
That's right. And the best way to do that is to use the words and phrases you already know instead of waiting to learn more.
Exactly. Let's give our listeners some simple ways to start speaking immediately. The first method is talking to yourself in English. You don't need a partner, just describe what you're doing, how you feel, or what you see around you.
Yes. For example, if you're making coffee, say, I am making coffee. The water is boiling. Now I will add sugar. It's a great way to get comfortable forming sentences in English.
Another powerful technique is shadowing. This means listening to a native speaker and repeating what they say word for word, without stopping.
That's a fantastic tip. You can do this with podcasts, movies, or even YouTube videos. Just pick a short sentence, listen, pause, and repeat. This helps with pronunciation and fluency.
Absolutely. And here's another tip: use simple English. Don't try to make long, complicated sentences in the beginning. Just focus on communicating your ideas in a clear way.
Yes. For example, instead of saying, I would like to express my gratitude for this wonderful meal, just say, thank you for the food. Keep it simple.
That's a great example. And finally, speak with real people as soon as possible. You can join an online English group, find a language partner, or even talk to strangers in English-friendly environments like tourist areas.
Yes, there are so many ways to practice speaking today. No excuses. The key is to start small and be consistent.
Exactly. So if you're listening to this podcast, promise yourself one thing. Today, you will say something in English out loud, even if it's just a few words.
That's the spirit. Now, speaking every day is important, but how can learners make sure they stay consistent? Let's talk about the power of daily conversations in the next section. So, Julia, we've talked about starting to speak from day one. But here's the big question. How can learners stay consistent? How can they keep practicing every day?
Great question, Jason. The best way to improve speaking skills is through daily conversations. Speaking once in a while won't help much. But if you make it a daily habit, you'll see big improvements.
That's so true. And the good news is, you don't need hours of practice. Even just 5 to 10 minutes a day can make a huge difference.
Exactly. And daily conversations don't have to be with native speakers. You can talk to a friend who is also learning English, join an online speaking group, or even talk to yourself.
Yes. And speaking of online groups, there are so many language exchange apps where learners can find a partner and practice English for free.
That's right. Apps like Tandem, HelloTalk, or even Facebook groups have communities where you can find speaking partners. And the best part? You're learning from real conversations, not just from a textbook.
Exactly. And let's not forget about voice messages. If you're too shy for a live conversation, start by sending voice messages to friends or language partners. That way, you can practice speaking without too much pressure.
That's a fantastic tip, Jason. And here's another idea: set a daily speaking goal. For example, say at least 5 sentences in English every day, or have a short conversation with one person daily.
Yes, the key is to stay consistent. If you practice speaking every day, even for a few minutes, you will improve faster than someone who only studies grammar and vocabulary.
Absolutely. So, to all our listeners, challenge yourself. Start speaking every day. It doesn't have to be perfect, just do it.
That's the mindset. Now, speaking daily is great, but many learners struggle with building confidence. So, let's talk about that next: how to build confidence when speaking English. All right, Julia, we've talked about the importance of daily conversations, but many learners struggle with this question: how do I find someone to practice speaking with?
That's a great point, Jason. A lot of people want to practice, but they don't know where to start. The good news is, there are so many ways to find speaking partners today.
Absolutely. And let's start with the easiest option: friends and family. If you have someone around you who speaks English or is also learning, start practicing with them.
Yes, even if they are not fluent, just having simple conversations in English can help you gain confidence. But if you don't have anyone around you, don't worry. There are many online options.
That's right. One great way is language exchange apps. Apps like HelloTalk, Tandem, and Speaky connect you with native speakers and other learners who want to practice English.
Yes, and many of these apps work like a chat system, so you can send text messages, voice messages, or even do video calls with your partner.
Another amazing way to find speaking partners is joining online communities. Facebook groups, Reddit forums, and Discord servers have thousands of English learners looking for partners.
That's a great idea. And if you prefer structured learning, you can also join speaking clubs or conversation classes on platforms like Meetup, Italki, or even local language schools.
Yes, many online platforms offer group conversations or one-on-one speaking sessions, so you can practice in a comfortable environment.
And here's a tip: be proactive. Don't just wait for someone to invite you to a conversation. Send a message, introduce yourself, and ask if they'd like to practice together.
That's so important. Many learners are shy at first, but remember, most people in these groups or apps want to practice, just like you.
Exactly. So, to all our listeners, don't wait. Start looking for a speaking partner today. Whether it's a friend, an online buddy, or a conversation group, the key is to just start speaking.
That's the mindset. Now, once you have a speaking partner, what should you talk about? In the next section, we'll share fun and effective conversation topics for English learners. All right, Julia, here's a big challenge for many English learners. They keep translating everything from their native language into English before speaking. Why is that a problem?
That's a great question, Jason. When you translate in your head, it slows you down and makes speaking feel difficult. Languages don't always have direct translations, so sentences might sound unnatural.
Exactly. That's why it's so important to train your brain to think in English instead of translating.
Yes, and the good news is anyone can do it with the right practice. Let's share some easy tips to start thinking in English.
Great idea. First, start with simple words and phrases. When you see a chair, don't think of the word in your language first. Just say chair in your mind.
That's a great tip. And another way to practice is by describing what's around you in English. For example, if you're walking outside, think, "The sky is blue, the sun is shining, I feel happy today."
I love that. It's like making English part of your daily life. Another tip is using an English-only dictionary. Instead of translating words, try to understand their meaning using simple English explanations.
Yes, and my favorite method, speak your thoughts out loud. Even if you're alone, try to say what you're thinking in English. It helps your brain get used to forming sentences naturally.
That's a fantastic idea. The key is to practice thinking in English every day. It may feel difficult at first, but over time, it becomes natural.
Exactly. So, to our listeners, start small, be consistent, and soon you'll find yourself thinking and speaking in English much faster.
That's the goal. Now, let's move on to our next topic, how to stay motivated when learning English. All right, Julia. Here's something that stops a lot of English learners from speaking. They're afraid of making mistakes. Have you seen this happen?
Oh, all the time, Jason. Many learners feel embarrassed when they make mistakes, so they stay silent. But here's the truth, mistakes are actually good.
That's right. Making mistakes means you're learning and improving. Nobody speaks a new language perfectly from day one.
Exactly. Even native speakers make mistakes sometimes. The important thing is to keep speaking and learning from your mistakes.
Yes, and here's a great tip: change your mindset. Instead of thinking, "Oh no, I made a mistake," think, "Great, I just learned something new."
That's such a powerful shift. Another tip is to listen to feedback with an open mind. If someone corrects you, don't feel bad. Feel grateful. It means you're improving.
Absolutely. And the best way to overcome the fear of mistakes is to practice more. The more you speak, the more confident you become.
Yes, so to all our listeners, don't be afraid to make mistakes. Keep speaking, keep learning, and you'll improve faster than you ever imagined.
That's the spirit. Now, let's move on to our next topic, how to create a simple daily routine for learning English. Wow, Julia! We've covered so many important points today. Stop studying too much. Start speaking. Find partners. Think in English. And most importantly, don't be afraid of mistakes.
Yes, and to all our listeners, remember you don't need to be perfect to speak English. You just need to start.
That's right. Take action today. Find a speaking partner. Practice thinking in English. And most importantly, speak every day. Even a few minutes will help you improve.
And don't wait for the perfect moment. Start right now. If you've been listening to this podcast, say something in English after we finish. Just one sentence. That's your first step.
We believe in you. Keep practicing, stay confident, and enjoy the journey of learning English.
And if you found this podcast helpful, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share it with your friends. Let's help more people start speaking English with confidence.
Yes, thanks for joining us today, and we'll see you in the next episode. Keep speaking, keep learning, and have fun.